being an Andrew Jones superfan, I was extremely excited to hear that he was finally going out on his own. Anybody that's watched any of the videos on my channel would probably categorize me as an Andrew Jones superfan. And that's evidenced by the TAD Compact Reference 1 sitting right here, as well as the speakers that are right over my head right there, which is the Elac Adante line of speakers that I use as a separate home theater speaker system in the same room. And I use Andrew's dedicated AC61 center channel, and also his bookshelf version of those speakers, which also feature a concentric driver. And I really love those speakers. They have, I believe, what's known as a passband woofer, where the woofer is inside the cabinet, and there's an aluminum passive radiator on the outside. They're really great speakers, very reasonably priced. So needless to say, I really like almost everything that Andrew Jones designs. And for people that don't know his full history, Andrew Jones worked at KEF and helped design the concentric drivers. And perhaps that's where he sort of became enamored with concentric drivers. And then after that, he went over to Pioneer and TAD, and he developed some really interesting speakers for Pioneer, some very low-priced ones that kind of got people into the hobby. And Andrew Jones actually tells a hilarious story about one day going to an audio show where the entry-level Pioneer speakers never showed up, and he actually had to go to a Best Buy to buy the speakers so that they could display them at the show. And the Best Buy clerk looks at the card and sees the name Andrew Jones and goes, "Are you the Andrew Jones, the speaker designer?" And he says, "Yes." And the guy's like, "Well, why are you here at a Best Buy buying our speakers from us?" And while at TAD, Andrew was the one that came up with the idea of taking TAD from just a company that designs drivers that are incorporated into big studio monitors into having their own line of speakers that are geared towards high-end audiophiles and studios alike. And as you could see in one of my previous videos, these TAD CR1 references are actually used by the supergroup ABBA in their recording studio right on the monitor bridge. And you're able to do that because it's a concentric design and it acts as a point source. After Elac, Andrew went over to MoFi, Mobil Fidelity, and designed a line of speakers for them called the Source Point, which were quite successful. And quite frankly, I'm not really sure why he left Mobil Fidelity, and perhaps maybe somebody can leave in the comments anything that they know, why they might have had a falling out, or maybe they just had different design goals. I'm not really sure, but the Source Point speakers were at a really good price point. They got great reviews. I actually heard them. I thought they were pretty fantastic. And the only criticism that I ever heard about the Source Point line of speakers, or at least the ones that I had heard, was that you really had to kind of crank them to get them to sound their best. They didn't really sound that good at very low level listening, and that's important to some people. It's not important to everyone, but if you are an owner of a Source Point speaker, please leave in the comments if you're able to get really satisfactory results when you have to listen low, really low, like 60 dB, low 70 dB range. The interesting thing is that the compact reference line with the vapor deposited beryllium driver, the mid-range and the tweeter, those actually sound phenomenal at really low volumes, like even lower than speaking voice, low 60 dBs. They can really come alive and sound quite good even when you're playing them. Really, it's just background music. And so being an Andrew Jones superfan, I was extremely excited to hear that he was finally going out on his own and creating a company called Jones and Cerreta. And I'll just read something from the Jones and Cerreta website. It says, introducing Jones and Cerreta, designed to serve music. Jones and Cerreta is a new Los Angeles-based speaker company co-founded by renowned speaker designer Andrew Jones and brothers Jamie and Bill Cerreta. Andrew's designs not only create an emotional connection with the music, with next-level sound every audiophile is looking for, they also are engineered to be a showpiece in your home. Designed with the discerning listener in mind, our debut speaker is an unexpected departure from previous designs. While the technology is new, our true focus remains unchanged: design in service to music. And I believe what they're referring to is the fact that the woofer in these new designs is not a traditional woofer, but is actually a throwback to what I believe were the first woofers ever designed, and that's called field coil. Now, I'm not an expert in this, but my basic understanding is that I believe at the time, possibly like 100 years ago or so, the magnet structures were not strong enough to create significant output. So they used a field coil, which is essentially a powered woofer. It creates magnetism through use of electricity. That's how they're able to get the efficiency for the motor structure to move. And certain people like Ralph Karsten from Atmosphere, whose electronics I use, are big proponents of field coil drivers. But of course, they're expensive. They're highly specialized. I believe one of Focal's very large and expensive design uses field coil drivers. And while I did hear the speakers, I really could not identify how the field coil made a contribution to the overall sound. But I'm really interested in how Andrew's new speakers with the field coils portray the lower parts of the frequency range as opposed to the type of speakers that he was doing with the TAD line. So I hope to be doing more videos about Andrew's new line of speakers. I hope to actually get to listen to them. I will talk to people that are going to the Axpona show next month in Chicago and get their take on what these new speakers sounded like. And so if you like this kind of content, learning about Andrew Jones speakers, coincident designs, electrostatics, as I kind of do with the Prodigio line, please consider hitting the subscribe button so you'll know when I drop a new video about high-end audio. Thanks for watching.